Carmel seniors, thank you for coming back and checking out the Before You Go podcast for this week. In case you don't know, I am Kailey, and today I have a special guest, and his name is JT.
Hey guys.
So, JT, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself by saying where you go to school, your major, and a interesting fact about yourself.
Sure. So, my name is JT Bicket. If we haven't met, I've been going to Carmel for my whole life, grew up here. I'm a senior at Liberty University, and a fun fact is I started a business in college.
So, what business?
I started a web design business, so I build websites for small businesses.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
One of the best fun facts so far on the podcast episode, so good job. Today we are going to be talking about chapter 5 in the book Before You Go, which is titled Community Doesn't Happen by Chance. There are 3 main points this chapter talks about, and that is location, intention, and vulnerability. So we'll walk through that a little bit later on in the podcast. The first question I have for you, where did you and do you go for community at Liberty?
Great question, Kailey. I would say my church for number 1. I go to a church called Gospel Community up in Lynchburg. 2, Liberty has a built-in community system called community groups.
Yeah.
So that happens every Wednesday after we have like a chapel service.
Okay.
And the third is, I would say, the school of business. And so it's around my major. And so I have like a Bible study and then some community around other people that share the same major and interest as me.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Are you involved in a leadership role at your community group thing on Wednesday night?
So I'm not a CGL, which is a community group leader.
Okay.
But I do lead a Bible study at the school of business.
Got it.
And I do mentor younger freshmen and sophomores.
Cool. The only reason I ask is because one of my best friends is involved in that, and I think she's a shepherd. Would that
A shepherd?
Is that one of them? Okay.
Yeah, a shepherd.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I love that y'all have that, all of that at Liberty.
It's really nice to be built in. For colleges that don't have that, they have big sister, big brother.
Yeah.
So
for
similar
sure.
structures.
Yeah, I was just talking about that earlier with someone, so.
Cool.
Yeah. So the next question, how were you intentional for your past 3 years of college in creating community at school?
Great question. So I would say that when I first showed up at Liberty, I got involved with things that were of interest to me. I jumped right into a thing called Eagle Scholars, which was like a leadership and like service outlet. We partnered with Habitat for Humanity and built a home for people in Lynchburg.
Okay.
We went to New York and did like a service project there for inner city kids. And so like a great way to get to know people is to serve alongside them.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. I was like, sounds like you're getting to know people through serving.
Through service. I mean, do you remember, was it Matthew's, what was it, Carmel? You know, back in the day we used to go and serve in Matthew's Serve.
I don't think I was here.
You weren't there for that? Okay, if you guys remember Matthew's Serve, or I think it was called Matthew's Serve. I might be completely off. But Carmel used to get together every year and go, and we would like plant gardens and shovel mulch and do things around the community.
Okay.
Great way to get to know people.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's like my favorite part about mission trips is the people that I'm still like have really close relationships with. Most of them I've gone on a mission trip with them.
Yeah.
And that's not because we happened to go on a mission trip, but because we were serving and we got to see every part of somebody, you know.
100%.
So
100%.
that's great.
Yeah.
All right. Next question I have for you. How were you vulnerable in your community at school, and how did that help you develop genuine community?
100%. I would say the way to build vulnerability with your community is through trust. And so serving alongside them, just doing things with that, I mean, you guys ever do like the team building, activity, like the trust fall?
Yeah.
It's like things like that. When you build trust with other people, when you just do life with them, whether that's I played indoor soccer with some guys, a couple of guys I mentored, I took out, we went hiking.
Okay.
It's like spending time with someone, you're gonna build trust with them.
Yeah.
And then naturally you're able to be and have more vulnerable conversations where true community is formed.
Yeah. Building trust is so important. I'm not a fan of trust fall because one time my brother forgot to catch me.
Did he really?
And I got a big like tennis ball like bruise on my elbow.
Oof.
But I am a fan of trust and building trust.
Sure. So maybe not trust fall, but
trust.
But trust, yes.
Yes, for sure. I think that's such an important and good point that you made. So awesome. How do you gain confidence when being in community, especially new community, because it's different?
Yeah, it is different. And so I would say, for one, when you're going to a new place like college, remember that everybody else is new too.
Yeah.
And so pretty much everybody's putting on like hey, they're excited to meet new friends.
Yeah.
And so you would be, most people are welcoming and inviting. And I think probably one of the best things I've learned is if you show interest in other people, they'll show interest in you.
Yeah, for sure.
And so just asking other people about themselves, saying, hey, tell me more about that.
Yeah.
I'm not even super interested in, what was one of the things I did?
Yeah.
I got into, what was it? I went and learned how to scuba dive because a friend was interested in it. And I was like, hey, that sounds pretty cool. And so like I went and put myself out there and like did something he was interested in. Cool skill to learn for one. Yeah. And then two, we became good friends.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's a great opportunity, is just putting yourself in other people's shoes.
For sure. So, like, along with trust would be being selfless and, like you said, doing things you might not necessarily do. But when you are selfless and you think of other people, then you can build good relationships from that.
That's
and
great, Kailey. Yeah.
I know that I have the tendency to, like, do everything and want to do everything. And I think the only exception to that is, like, when you are in a new place, it is good, from my experience when you're in college, to like the first few weeks, like go to everything that you can. Don't completely overwhelm yourself. But when you do go to everything, you can like pick, okay, I want to do that, I don't want to do that. So I'd say go to everything in the first few weeks. I don't know what you think.
That's what I did.
Okay.
So I went to every single first club event. Got on
Gosh.
all of their emails. And then decided on which ones I was actually going to stick with.
Yeah.
It was
all the emails.
Exactly. I got to know all the different clubs on campus. And so then I knew what options were out there.
Yeah.
And then after that, I chose which ones I actually want to invest time into.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to go about it. I mean, the whole time you're in college, don't do that. But the first month or so, I'd say it's good.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity. Opens you to new perspectives and new people.
For sure. The last question I have for you, have you found it easier to jump into community that's already built or build your own community in college?
That's a hard question. I think it depends a little bit on your personality.
Okay, yeah.
And I think there's a little bit of both. And so like I created some community around the people that God put in my path. Yeah. Because I truly believe that like God does like put people on our path for a purpose.
Right.
And so I built community, but at the same time, I saw some, like I looked up some leaders on campus. Okay. I'm trying to think of some people at Carmel, so like Jeremy Mancini, Austin Johnson, those guys were older than me when I showed up to Liberty. Yeah. And so I went and put myself in their community to learn and grow from them. Awesome. And then when they graduated, I built my own community. Yeah. And so there's an aspect of building your own community, but also seeing, hey, that's a great group of guys over there. I'm going to go hang out with them. Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of the community, you can start with going to already built community, and then like you said, as you transition and get older, you can create your own. That's right. Which is, it's definitely a process. But it's a good one, it's worth the time that it takes. It really is. So, everyone needs good community. Yes, they do. I think we can all agree on that. Do you have any last words for the seniors as they transition? I would say that don't just take our word for it. Like Jesus modeled this. He went up to be with the Father and spent every morning he would go out and pray. I mean, I'm just thinking back to like Luke, middle of Luke. I don't know the exact verse off the top of my head, but he goes up the mountain to pray. Yeah. And then he goes down and spends time with his disciples before he goes out into the crowd. And so there's an aspect of, yes, being time with the Father and like quiet time, but there is this like intentional aspect of Jesus' walk on earth that he spends time with disciples. He has 12 close friends. Yes. And then he goes out and does the work of the Father in spending time with the crowds and healing them. That's so good. And so if Jesus did it, so should we. Yes. Oh, couldn't have said better last words. I think that was awesome. So definitely take JT's advice and his wisdom, because I know that y'all can really benefit from that. So thank you again so much for tuning in, and it was so awesome to have you, JT, on the podcast. Yeah, of course. Bye, guys. See you guys.